What is up, y'all? We are back with another episode with the mini truck. Behind me, you can see we've got an assortment of goodies for the timing belt, valve cover gasket, oil filter, water pump, tensioner and idler, same thing with that, thermostat, and the alternator belt, as well as some other accessory O-rings. So we are going to get dug into that today. Shouldn't be a big project. I think more of the biggest thing is just accessing and getting to all the things inside this truck. So we're going to start by pulling this top cover, getting that removed so we can get access to the motor, and then from there we're going to probably end up jacking the truck up so we can get this wheel pulled off so we can get full access to the timing belt and get this thing set up to where we can get the timing belt pulled and get everything all swapped out. So you know the deal. Let's roll that intro. Everything we need to as far as doing the valve cover gasket on the top side of things. This is pretty straightforward. When we get to this, I'll get this broke down a little bit more thoroughly, but pretty much we're going to get all our plug wires popped out of there. We'll end up pulling them from the cap just because of how they want to lay. They're kind of a tight run, so we get them all pulled out. This bracket's going to have to come off, and it can get tucked out of the way, as well as pulling this breather off of this valve cover. Then this should get removed. Pretty simple. Good wipe down on it, and we'll get the gasket thrown in that. Moving over here, we did ourselves a favor and pulled the wheel out of the way. So this is a two-piece cover here, so we're going to end up getting the 10mm bolts pulled out of, I believe there's one there, and I think there's one more at the top from the last I remember. Getting that pulled, and then we'll get this portion pulled off as well. This side just has the snap clips. I believe there's one here, one on this side, one right here, and then there's one right here. We'll get that set. I believe there may be one more. Oh yeah, it's right here, right there. That'll get this loose, and then it just kind of slides out of the way here. This gives us access to, this is the crank portion, so this is the crank pulley. That's going to be our alternator, which this is going to be the new belt that they give us in the package there, but as well as we're going to need to remove this side, like I was saying, so we can access the side that runs the AC compressor. Yeah, so I'm going to get you guys set up. We're going to do a time lapse and pulling this all off, and then I'll kind of do key points on what you need to do when you go to pull this all apart. Well, as you can see, that was rather enjoyable. So one thing that you guys may not have caught, but you can actually see it right here. I had to pull the dipstick out. Make sure you've got a drain pan I obviously do have a drain pan right here, but if you haven't already drained the oil, just go ahead and do so. That way when you do pull this out, it doesn't come torrential downpouring out of there. Again, I knew this was gonna be a thing, so it didn't surprise me. I'm just trying to help you guys. If you guys go to do this and don't expect anything to happen, you will take a bath. Just fun fact. So you can see we've got one idler here. We're gonna have another idler right here. This is gonna be our water pump, and this is the cam gear. So somebody has done it at some point because there's marks on here, and then there's a mark right there as well. So we need to get that mark. Let's get you guys off this mount here. So there's an indicator right there, and then I'll have to look and see where the other one says it's supposed to be. This says up, so I'm going to assume that there's a mark over here. So we're just gonna rotate the motor back over. The easiest way to do that is we're gonna go ahead and put our crank bolt back in, and then we can put a wrench on this and easily turn this over so we get everything lined up. Because when we pull this belt off, we want to make sure that the crank and the cam are in time and we're not off a tooth. I'm about positive that this is a zero tolerance motor, so you will find out the hard way what being off a couple teeth will do to this motor. If you guys are unfamiliar what a zero tolerance is, it just means that there is no room for error between the valves and the pistons. So if you're off a couple teeth for timing marks, they will touch each other and it'll be a no bueno there. So let's go ahead and get a socket on this. We can get this motor turned over. Let me grab a ratchet real quick, make our lives a lot easier. So we're gonna turn this over. I mean, it should just turn just like that. So our mark is right there, but that is one mark. That is not our mark. Our mark is right. We're on compression here, so it's going to be a little tight. And it's in gear, I forgot. Hold on. Alright, that should make our life a little bit easier. I put it in gear because I was pulling these lug nuts off and I didn't want them to give me any issue, so much better. So we're going to turn this. This is our mark, which I have passed. So let's come back a little bit, just like that. All right, so there's going to be an arrow right here. Let's show you guys that. There's going to be a mark. Here, let's bring you a little bit closer. See the mark right there? That's going to line up with that mark right there. Now, we just have to make sure that our marks on the crank or the cam gear are where they need to be. So I'm going to double check what it calls for, and then we'll make sure that that's right, because this thing should go around 2 to 3 times before this goes around once. So it does say up right here. We may need that to go around one more time. So let me double check what our specs are. All right, we are back. So I was in the right spot. I just wanted to double check. So a good reference here, they'll tell you in the book, but there's a mark right here. Let's see if I can get this light out. There's a mark right here, and there's a mark right here. That's going to be in line with the top of the head or the valve cover right here. So right here and right here, those will be in line. That says up. So obviously the motor sets at an angle, so this is going to be its up, and then you want to line up this paint mark here with the tooth there, and that's how you know. If you're 180 out, this will be down here when this is lined back up. So you just want to make sure that when this says up, it is in the correct spot. Secondly, I did mention earlier, the best way, I got the cover fished out of here, but the best way to do this is to pull the valve cover bolts and get it just lifted up a little bit. I'm obviously going to do that when I go to put it back, because I've got to change this valve cover gasket out. But for now, I was able to fish it out. Really wasn't that big of a deal. But there is a lip on this cover. You can kind of see it right there, that this top cover right here sets into. So it kind of snaps in like so. You're going to want to make sure that you get that cover lifted up when this goes back in, as well as the gaskets in the right spot so you don't pinch anything. Secondly, or maybe even third, you don't have to drain your oil. You can take those bolts out and spin this 180, the dipstick tube, and it's down there. Two things. I needed to do an oil change on this anyways. The kit came with an oil filter, so why not just do an oil change? As well as, if you clock this 180 and don't put a screw back in this, if you bump that, you're gonna take a bath. So you might as well just do it all in one shot when you go to do this. Just plan it out to where you do the service, you do the belt, you do the water pump, all in one shot, to where you're not trying to save the oil that was in there. So that, just a little heads up on that. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this, I guess I can stick this back on here to get a little bit of light. I'm gonna go ahead and get this tensioner pulley pulled off, where my impact ran off to. Oh, there it is. Little note on the top side, there was a couple screws to access this. Like when you go to do the compressor, there is a nut on the top half of this for the adjustment. When you go to do the alternator, pull the bolt out for the alternator right here. There's going to be another bolt right here. Pull those out, get that pulled out. You don't have to take it out all the way, but it's just so much easier if you do. And I did mention this in the beginning of this, don't forget to take your cable off your battery so you're not doing this hot. I mean, any motor project, that should be the first thing you do, is disconnect the battery, just in case you don't set any fault codes. If you don't have the means of a scanner, you're not, you know, throwing everything out of whack. Just disconnect the power or the ground. I like to just do the ground on the battery, and then you have no concerns about the wires touching or something happening if you got to remove the alternator. Just meant to mention that earlier and I forgot. So let's go ahead and get the bolt pulled out of this. Like so. There's a little spring on here. You can just pop it off. Just kind of keeps the residual tension. So we are, remember how this goes too. One's the long side, one's the short side. We're gonna replace this whole thing. So let's just go ahead and pull this bolt completely out. And then this will come right off of here. It feels good, but came in the kit, so we're swapping it out. So we've got our water pump, parts, the belt, thermostat. So this is all in line, so we're going to go ahead, pop this off. Now if you notice, this is all tight through here, it comes into here. You're going to want to keep that true when you do this. So let's go ahead and get this pulled off. And if we look, we just like to inspect our belt. Somebody's definitely put one on not too long ago because it doesn't look crappy. Everything looks good there. The belt's not dry rotted. But couldn't really see in here prior to, so it's just kind of good practice. This seems super free, no issues there. But again, we're gonna swap it. Let's go ahead and get this pulled out. All right, got that out. So we're just gonna swap as we go here. So let's get the tensioner put in. Good there. Now, when we go to do our water pump, I already know that I'm gonna have to pull this housing right here. So let's get these removed. While I had the covers off for the time belt, I figured why not, best time, get these things all cleaned up, because otherwise when I go to put them back together, my hands are gonna look like this again. So I'm gonna finish cleaning these up, get them all brandy new, and then the one piece has to slide over here, but we'll get that buttoned up, then I can get the belt on it, and then once the belt's on, we'll set our tension back up, make sure, double check that everything is good to go, that we've got no issues there, and we'll do the valve cover gasket. Alright, well, we went ahead and got our plastic piece cleaned up like we were talking about, got that on, got the water pump snug, went ahead and fed the belt on. It says to start from here and work your way this way. Just be careful when you're feeding it around here, just to turn in this, just to make sure it's in the groove. Don't spin it too much, because this side will turn. And if you do, just double check that this is still in line with its spot there. But you go ahead and feed it around, and then you can come underneath here, pretty much just pull down, set residual tension on it, and lock this down, and our spring will go back on there. You know, you just want to make sure it's pretty tight. You don't have to get too carried away, but you want to make sure it's definitely taut, and you're not going to have any issues with it coming off. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and use the reverse method, putting this all back together. So we're going to start with putting our cover back on and just working our way up. Again, I've got to pull this valve cover and do that next. So I'll get probably to about right here, and then I'm going to go up there and get that swapped over. All in all, this job really isn't that bad. I would just say take your time, make sure that when everything gets put back together, that your cam and crank are back in time. So I'm going to time lapse putting this back together, and then I'll bring you guys back when we go ahead and do the valve cover. So what I was referring to earlier was on the AC compressor, which is right here, the alignment or the adjustment bolt is right here with a 12 millimeter nut. You're just going to go ahead and tighten this up, and then you can reach down here and just kind of feel the belt, make sure it's tightening up. But you're going to go ahead and run this up until it's taut. You don't want it overkill, but you also don't want it loose. So you'll get this tightened up, maybe just a little bit more, and then we'll move on to putting the alternator back in its spot, which is right here. And then we'll get that belt adjusted up, and then from there we'll move on to our valve cover gasket, which should be nice and fun. So we're gonna go ahead and keep running this up just that little bit. We're getting close to our adjustment here. We should be good. Yeah, that's about our spot. So we're gonna go ahead and call that. So let's go ahead and jump over to our alternator. So I wanted to go ahead and apologize for the missing clip on the alternator. Don't know how it happened, but apparently I did not depress the record button long enough, or hard enough I should say, to get this clip in here. So as we speak, I'm editing this video, and just one of those. If you pulled the alternator out, you can put it right back in there. It's really not that much you know, of a confusion to get it back in there. I wanted to move forward doing the reverse process, but unfortunately I missed that. So apologize, I'm trying to get better each time. But anyways, we're gonna jump to the next clip, which is us doing the valve cover. So again, my bad. I'm sure this is gonna be right in the way, so you may wanna get this loosened up and maybe pulled out of the way. Or you might be able to sneak it around it. I don't know. I've never had this off before. Okay, I got it. I got it. Not too bad. So, cover's gonna pop off of here. When you go to put this back on, make sure you put silicone in this corner here and here, as well as here and here. We'll go ahead and get this pulled out of here. Like so. And then these pull out from the bottom side, so you can just hook them with your finger. Should be able to pop these right out, and just like so. And these just prevent oil from going down in the spark plug holes. Looking down in there, there's a little bit of oil in them anyways, so the easiest way for that is just to pull the spark plug, spray a little bit of brake clean in there, just a little bit, don't get carried away. But that'll rinse the oil down, and then just put the spark plug back in. Looking in here, there's a little bit of buildup, but nothing too crazy, nothing that I'm not concerned, you know, that I am concerned about. So, but we're gonna go ahead and get everything cleaned up around the sealing surfaces, and here's what I was talking about. These are going to be the flat washers that are on the other side, so just be mindful of where those go. But yeah, we'll go ahead and get the new valve cover thrown on, button this up, we should be good to go. So it's another day. We ran out of time yesterday. We had dinner plans, kind of forgot about them. So as you can see, we got the truck pretty much all buttoned up, besides putting fluids in it. If I can make any suggestion, it's make sure you put on the timing belt cover, make sure you put the top half on the engine before you go to put the valve cover back on. I kind of forgot to tuck it in there, got the valve cover all seated on there, and then couldn't get that cover put on. My fault, I was just getting ahead of myself. But that portion is all done, we're all good there. We just need to make sure the fluids are all good. So I ran to the store, we got some AMSOIL to throw back in here, 1030. The transmission takes the same thing, so we went ahead and got 3 quarts for the motor, and then a quart and change for topping the transmission off, as well as we got 75/90 for the front end to get that all drained. I can't remember if I ever did that. I know I did everything else, but I don't remember if I ever did the front diff. So we need to get that done. So the fill is going to be right here. It's kind of a, I don't have a bendy funnel, so I'm going to have to make that work. So let's do it. All right, we're going to go ahead and give this thing its first startup. So we're gonna go ahead and let this thing run. I need to get this thing up to temperature so I can double check the coolant on it. And then after that, it's really just go drive it, make sure everything's good to go. I'm gonna double check the oil, make sure it's good on levels there, but I put the 3 quarts that it calls for, so I know we're not super low there. And then I think the only thing I got left to fix is on the muffler there. I got to put some packing in the nose cap there because it's starting to rattle a little bit. It doesn't do it under high idle, but when it idles back down, it wants to sit there and rattle. So I think that about does it on this. I don't really have to go into too much more depth. Pretty straightforward process. Just a matter of when you take the parts off, just put them back the way you had them. Otherwise, you'll run into issues like I did. All in all, this job took about, I would say, 1.5 to 2 hours if you stayed steadily on it. And other than that, pretty straightforward. You guys have a good one. We'll see you on the next one.